And occasionally we might turn and look at our footprints as time allows them to stretch out behind us. And we can see that some of those footprints stay and some of them wash away. I'm absolutely beguiled by this medium, this virtual light that carries and sustains that special light that comes from behind your eyes, that is the shining of your spirit, your essence, your divinity, that spirit in each of you, in all of us, all of us, where we are all one. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Al. Well, I would love to open this up to various announcements and things going on. Diane, you want to share anything about Day of the Dead next week or coming on this last week before Samhain and everything?
Unmute. Okay, there we go. On Saturday, we're going to be celebrating Samhain, which is the Celtic New Year, and honoring our ancestors and descendants who have gone before us. And it's going to start at 7 o'clock. It's going to be by Zoom. And Katie's going to help me set it up so I can host the darn thing. It'll be an experiment. And then on Sunday we're going to be celebrating Day of the Dead. Also an experiment, but I think it's going to work out just fine from what I can see so far. And Katie will be hosting that. And let's see, for both of them, you can bring a glass of wine or your favorite beverage and, set up in your homes an altar for your ancestors who've died, and a candle, light a candle minimally. And that's about it. If you have any questions, give me a call during the week.
Good, thanks, Dan.
I have an announcement. I wanted to share about my reading. That I'm going to do a reading for my new memoir, Born in the Year Zero, on Monday evening that Katie's going to be hosting. I'll be reading excerpts from the memoir, and then afterwards I'll open it up for questions in case anybody has questions about it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so that'll be tomorrow night.
Right.
At
7.
Yeah. Great. That'll be fun.
I'm going to butt in real quick. I saw Natalie asked what time the Day of the Dead celebration is going to be. That's going to be our regular Sunday morning service. So it'll be at 10:30 on Sunday.
There's you should be getting the Wednesday emails. If you don't get Wednesday emails, let me know. But we also post the Wednesday emails on Facebook, and that has all the details for all this stuff too. So we've got Tony's Zoom link on there, got the Samhain Zoom link, we've got the Day of the Dead. We'll just be logging in like normal. Some people, David West, is there still room to contribute pre-recorded songs or readings? Is that are you talking about for Day of the Dead, or are you talking about just generally, David? I don't know. I think that the menu for Day of the Dead, I think, is pretty set, right, Diane? Or is there any?
Yeah.
But if you have things you want to add for today or any other week, we do still have the Sign Up Genius link on the Wednesday emails too, that if you want to ever contribute. And we can continue to do Day of the Dead celebrating all fall long and forever. So is next Sunday the daylight savings time shift? Is it? I don't know.
Conrad's nodding yes.
Oh, fun. So you'll get a little bit of fall back. That'll be fun. You'll have to wake up early. Hey, Steve, what's up?
Hey, I have an announcement. Tomorrow is the court hearing for the East Phillips Indoor Urban Farm at 1:30, and people can listen in and they don't want us to post the link, but if you email me, I will email you the link. Where the city is asked to dismiss our case due to, I'm not sure, various reasons. They are conducting a environmental assessment, voluntary, they say, although they didn't do it until we filed the court hearing. But we are asking them to, and asking the state of Minnesota to enforce the 2008 cumulative pollution law for East Phillips, the Clark-Berglund law, and that requires a cumulative pollution analysis that takes into account everything that is going on in the neighborhood pollution wise. And so that's what we're suing them to do. So anyway, it would be great to have people listening in. My email is steve@stevesandberg.com. And if you send me an ask, I will send you the link.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, do you want to, can you put your email in the chat? That'll be good.
Okay.
I'll contact you. Okay. What else is going on, friends, that you need to check in about? Alan, what you got?
I just wanted to say that this past Tuesday was our first experiment in handing out food to people from indoors because of the weather. And I thought it was really successful. It looked like we had a pretty good system of doing it, and at the same time being able to make sure that the building was safe as well. And I think everybody's needs were met, and we're always open to other people showing up to help out. It's really a great experience. I've just totally given myself into it. Even though I was questioning the weather in an email to Katie or a voicemail to Katie this past week, I showed up and it was great.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Alan's been doing good work with our meal work, and you can contribute by giving paper bags to our meal program. I'm happy to pick them up if you don't have a vehicle, or if you just want me to pick them up from you. We still need paper bags. And tomorrow I'm going to be having a meeting with the Grease Pit. The bike shop has been hosting the Phillips Neighborhood Community Free Store that's done a little bit of food, a little bit of clothing. And it's possible that we might on a month-to-month basis host them for a little bit, perhaps with, so as we're collaborating and working with our Tuesday setup, how is it that we could be supporting other mutual aid projects in the neighborhood? And so a couple of us are going to be meeting with the Grease Pit tomorrow, the people who are been working on the free store, and so that'll be good. It's been a really cool season that Walker Church has been able to be present. And I don't know if I think I put it in the Wednesday email this week, but even in the huge snowstorm, we had a lot of people who were able to come through and get groceries. Some came back to bring more greens to their neighbors. And one little girl came in and she had a stack of salad as tall as her in her arms and said, well, we have a bunny, so we're going to feed these to the bunny. And then we had someone come in with a laundry basket full of squashes that they had grown in their garden, and they just dropped them off for anyone to take. And so it's been really cool to see the ways that the community continues to come together, and that the word is out that Walker is a place to support one another, but also isn't overwhelming us with stuff, which is good, the way that some like drop-off sites are. And one thing that might start happening is if we have our intern Victoria, who I'll more formally introduce in just a second, but also another local volunteer named Michael, who I think is willing to take some of the lead on on ramping up our Tuesday meal setup and takedown. And we might be wanting to do some drop-off times, perhaps if people have canned goods, or, you know, if you're at the grocery store and you're just like, or maybe you picked up just way too many bananas, or maybe they're on sale or something. And if you want to drop things off, we're looking to maybe have a drop-off time, perhaps Monday night and during the day, Tuesday, to help supplement when Sisters Camelot isn't hosted at our church. Sometimes we have a little bit less food for people. So that there's a lot of ways to be involved there. If you have some things to drop off, if you want to sit alone and sort through donations sometime, if you want to give some wisdom to any of these conversations, you're welcome to reach out to me. That's really good. And thanks for your post, Steve, about the court hearings. So I have, before we keep going, I'm going to introduce again, since there's more of us here now, up to 40 people. We have our new intern, Victoria, and I would love for us to play 20 questions with her, because I told you before, you're all my little youth group, because I don't have formal youth group anymore. So we're gonna play 20 questions. So everyone just shout out a question, or you can type it, and we're gonna play 20 questions with Victoria. So I'll start with saying, Victoria, what's your middle name?
My middle name is Julia, and I was actually named after my great grandpa. He was Victor Julius, so I'm Victoria Julia.
Oh, that's so cute. Awesome. All right, cool. Who's got another question?
What's a Lutheran like you doing it in a Methodist church?
Well, we all have to do hours in a congregation, and I was looking for something that was in line with more of my radical values about church. And so I was connected with New City Church, who then connected me with Katie, and that's where I am.
Nice. Cool. Good question. What else we got? Big or little?
In the chat, Joe says, did I ever go to a Lutheran Bible camp? I have been to Okoboji and Wapagasset.
What fun names is that?
Way back in my, let's see, Okoboji's in Iowa, and Wapo's in Wisconsin somewhere. I went to Wapo when I was like, 10 or 11.
Joe's been to Okoboji too. That's cool. Okay, Victoria, you have a suspicious red hat in your Zoom frame. Please explain.
It is, let me see.
No MAGA hats here.
No, it's, I don't even know what the symbol is. It's, my boyfriend's a really like sci-fi.
Isn't that Star Trek or something? Or
Yes, it is Star Trek.
It's a Star Trek communicator. It's the general symbol of the Federation of Planets.
Wait, Victoria. Oh, that's so cool. Victoria, you just said he was your boyfriend.
Well, yeah, it's really making that transition from saying boyfriend to fiance is a really big.
And when did you get engaged, Victoria?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Very fun. Nancy Larson says, what's your favorite leisure thing to do?
I love to go on walks, and I love to bake things, whatever,
Bake. Okay. Great. Got a lot of Okoboji people. That's cool. And shout out to all the Trekkies out there. Al, of course, was able to pop in there.
I'm
What else
sorry,
we got?
I've got one, but it's not for Victoria. I just passed by a yard sign that said, "Will you shut up, man? Biden." Sorry.
You're on
Welcome,
the move.
Victoria.
Cheryl's on the move. I love that. That's awesome.
I think we've got more Lutherans and Catholics around here than Methodists.
That's probably true, actually. That's why there's so many good campers. All right, what else we got? We can get at least to 10, I believe. We're at 7.
What's the most recent book you've read?
Well, I'm reading many, many books for seminary. So I am reading, or I read Who Wrote the Bible, Opening Israel's Scriptures, because I'm in an Old Testament class and a theology class. Let's see. Those are like the two books that I've really read through. And outside of school books, the last book I read, was Know My Name by Chanel Miller, who was the victim of the Stanford sexual assault case.
Ooh, that sounds like good beach reading.
It was I actually listened to the audiobook and she narrated it, and it was it was really powerful to hear her testimony of things.
That's really cool. Alan says, do you sing or play an instrument? They're always trying to recruit more.
I was in choir at one of the last congregations I was in. I sang in the choir. I have not played an instrument in 15 years. And in the day I played the trombone back in high school.
Oh, fun. All right, let's see. What's your favorite hymn I see on here?
I'm gonna go with the classic Amazing Grace.
That's a good one. Yep. Let's see. What's the last movie you loved?
I don't even know what the last movie I watched was. I love the movie Up, which is a Disney Pixar movie, but also recently watched Field of Dreams. My family's from Iowa, so that's a really,
yeah, close to your heart.
Yes.
I see last place you traveled.
Oklahoma, to see my fiance's family.
Oh, all right. Do they still have a gymnasium at Luther Seminary? That's an interesting question.
I don't think so. So we're all online for class. So I haven't been on the campus, but I know that Luther has been selling off buildings and land. And so I think a lot of things have been downsized on campus.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Let's see. I have Tony. What's your favorite course in seminary? I mean, you just started like a month ago, but do you have a favorite class so far?
I don't know. They're all, I can tell you that Hebrew is my least favorite course. And I really enjoy my History of Women in the Church class.
Cool.
Yeah, that comes with the most open discussions.
Yeah. What about, okay, people are wanting to know, where in Iowa are you from and where in Oklahoma is your partner from?
So Iowa, my family, I have family who's still in the Iowa City area. Several of my aunts and uncles were born in Burlington. I went to college in the Quad Cities, so in Rock Island, Illinois, but I worked in Davenport and Bettendorf. My family that's left in Iowa is in Iowa City, but family was from all over Iowa.
What about your partner? Yeah, fiance.
Oklahoma. My fiance's dad and stepmom and sister live in, they live outside of Tahlequah.
Ooh, that's a cool name. A lot of cool names.
But he's originally from Houston.
Oh. Okay. Do you follow the Minnesota Twins? That's what Jim wants to know.
This year I did not. In previous years I have. But the COVID era kind of made sports a little less exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. Where do you live in the Twin Cities now?
I currently live in Maple Grove, and in 5 weeks I'm moving to Elk River.
Yeah,
literally.
good out in the country. All right, I think I have 2 questions left, and I have but I think might be encapsulated by this one. This is a big one. Do you have a story about how you were called to ministry? I know that'd be a good question.
Yeah. So the short-ish version without like all of the background details is through my college years, I kind of quit going to church due to several series of events and trauma things. And just not getting a positive response or like support from the church that I had been looking for. And so then I just quit going. And then a couple of years ago, when I moved back to Minnesota from Iowa, I started going back to church and was in a women's Bible study and just really feeling like there was more that I could be doing in my life than working as a receptionist at a medical clinic. And people also kept telling me like, oh, like, you know, you're so good at XYZ, you know? And so one day I was driving to work, and it got really quiet in the car. And I heard this voice say, you should go to seminary. And I was like, here are 10 reasons I should not go to seminary. And then, you know, was told those are the exact reasons that you should go. So really kind of a divine experience. And then the first song that played on the radio after that was Thy Will Be Done, which is by Hillary Scott. And that was 2 years ago. And it took me a lot of discerning to figure out what I really wanted to do. And now I'm in seminary and I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm done, but that's what seminary is for.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thanks for playing. That was fun. I am excited. There's so much more to get to know about you, and I'm excited. We have a lot of retired pastors here at Walker and a lot of people with a lot of different spiritual backgrounds. And so, yeah, so Victoria is going to be working on, she's going to be helping out with our Tuesday meal stuff. She's going to kind of be open to doing all sorts of things, but yeah, you can give us a reach out through the office and maybe we can get some former pastors or some other people together for some coffee or something. And I know that it's just all, you know, there's not like a ton of things that Victoria really has to do with us except just kind of spend time. And I'm gonna, we are gonna eventually have her share and speak a little more, which will be fun. About some of the topics that she thinks about and cares about, and it could be sort of sermon related too. So thanks, Victoria. And now, yeah, and I want to lift up now too. What else people are bringing to the table today? We've talked about like announcements and things, but as we kind of reground ourselves in this celebration service time, I'm wondering, what is it you're bringing to the virtual circle today? What's on your mind? What's on your heart? What are you all thinking about before we do some poetry reading and some scripture and some time in quiet? You're welcome to put it in the chat, or you can kind of just think about it as we take this time, or you're welcome to unmute yourself and share.
Hi, I'm Kathy Steinhauer. Yeah, I was raised Catholic, and the only time I went to an ordination, a priest, female priests, 3 female priests and a Monsignor, and it was overseen by a female bishop. So I just want to say, yes, we definitely need more women in clergy. We need more women of sanctity in clergy. And I think for the most part, this is all these women's either second or third careers, but they were doing it. And I've told people this, and usually I hear from male Catholics, oh, that's not sanctioned by the church. But to me, they are. So I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Old Jewish guy here doesn't have a problem with that.
We love the women doing sacred work, whatever it looks like, whether it's in a church or in a synagogue or anywhere else. Thank you. What else are you bringing to the circle today? I see David sharing lots of grief in our household. Well, that's on point with our themes today and next week. Miriam's dad recently passed away and we had to euthanize our cat Hobbs this past Friday. I'm so sorry, David. I hope that we can get a picture of Hobbs and of Miriam's dad for our service next week. Yeah, my cousin lost his cat Yoko, 17-year-old cat last week, so we're sad about that for sure. And my I have two friends in Rochester. Actually, I have had two friends in Rochester who had baby girls in 2020, and both of the baby girls died. And so Iris would have been one. Actually, she died in actually 2019, but she died in February. She was born a year ago, so she would have been one. So thinking about my friend Kelly and in this week. Natalie shares, I dealt with some sexual harassment at work this week. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I shared my experience with the meditation group and I'm feeling better, but still uneasy. Well, I'm glad that the meditation group was there for you, Natalie, and I'm really sorry that that's happening. Well, with everything that's on our hearts and our minds and things that are spoken and unspoken, let's take a moment to breathe together. And like I said, we are talking a little bit about different kinds of grief and healing work this week and next week. And so let's take a moment of quiet to absorb and consider all that's been said. And then I'll read a poem that relates about this that's called Well of Grief. We take this time to lift up these things that are on our minds and hearts. Maybe you are someone who is like sacred objects. Right now I have my little stone group here. I've got some sage from a friend and a candle lit today. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but I actually was able to go to a place with sacred water yesterday to the cold water spring in Minnehaha. So my stones are taking a little bath in the water. And I know that there's a lot that comes up in this season as we start to head into holidays and as we kind of come into this thin place this season of sort of the end of fall and the time when the spiritual world and the physical world start to come into a more thin place, and it feels like there's memories and grief and things that are more accessible in this time. So let's consider all the things that are joyful and the things that we are struggling with right now and hold those in our hands and our minds and our hearts. And this is what David White calls the well of grief. And I thought about this well of grief as I thought this poem was appropriate after spending time at the springs yesterday. He writes, "Those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning downward through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink, the secret water, cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else." Those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning downward through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink, the secret water, cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. Like I said yesterday, my friend Jordan and I went on a hike over at Coldwater Springs, and I had never been to that site. I had just, I'd never actually heard about it either. Have any of you, I'm curious if you want to raise your hands or something, have any of you been there and walked around? Most of you, yeah. It was a very beautiful spot. And so I was looking up a little bit more about it. My friend is she's one of my witchy friends. And so she has some interest in the sacredness of the water there and wanted to collect some for a project she's working on. It's a spot that for 10,000 years has been a sacred place where the whole area is where the Minnesota River and the Mississippi River converge. And so it was a place that has been a holy space for the Dakota people. It's a place where people, I guess that in a sense, the region is what they call like the birth of the Dakota people, sort of like the Garden of Eden story being the birth of people. The Dakota people's story is about coming from a spring at the convergence of these waters. And I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe other people do. The Bedote, which means where two waters come together. And there's, so that section being called where two waters come together. It's an area where a lot of people made camp, and there's lots of trade and just a place where people would have sacred ceremonies and come together to just live life. Of course, like most other places in Minnesota, it was also colonized, and it became a place where a lot of people came together for different reasons as well. Not necessarily a violent place. It was continued to be a pretty important and sacred site for the people who took over in different ways. It's the area where places around Fort Snelling were established. There were armies that used the spring site as a water source. It was an important crossroads for both Native Americans and white people alike for commerce and travel. Soldiers would camp there all the way back from the early 1800s. And it was also a place that then was taken over by the Bureau of Mines, a research center, mining, like as in, turning up dirt and going underground mining. The buildings were constructed there in the 50s and the 60s, and then the labs that were built there started to be vacated in the 90s and fell into disrepair. And so then it just has been a ruin for a little while. So this is probably partly why I didn't know much about this, because it really they didn't get demolished until 2011. And it's only in the last couple of years that it started. And maybe some of you have done work with that and advocated for that to reclaim that land as a prairie site to look a little bit more the way that it used to. And so as we were walking there, it sort of feels like those of you who've been there, I'm sure you felt the same, that when you walk over into the prairie lands, it just feels kind of like you're being wrapped in a big heavy blanket. Like it kind of feels like things become muted, sort of that feeling like when there's a lot of snow on the ground. And we walked around, and it's also a dog park. It's a pretty open, down by the river, you can start to let loose your dogs. And so there was just a but it wasn't, you know, a lot of, I don't have a dog, but I've dog sat for a lot of dogs, and I don't like the dog parks kind of gross me out. I mean, I like dogs being able to play together, but a lot of times there's that kind of big forest green fence, and and then there's just like poop bags everywhere, and it's kind of gross. But this area is just sort of like a big open space. There's no big green fences, and it feels kind of like you're going back in time. And it's nice to just see all these very wolf-like dogs running around and playing with each other, everybody off leash, everybody in sort of a free and natural state. And so my friend Jordan and I were walking down there and enjoying that space. And she and I, maybe partly because of just the season we're in, this season where fall is just a season where it kind of has universally symbolizes the ending of things and reflecting on death and change in a lot of different ways. But also Jordan and I are people who grew up surrounded by a lot of Christian stuff. I had, I grew up interested in a lot of evangelical things, went to Baptist summer camp. Speaking of those summer camps, I think Baptist summer camp's a little different than Lutheran summer camp, depending on the one. A lot of people getting saved at them. And Jordan is also someone who has had, I would say her experience is a little more under the realm of spiritual abuse. She's had a pretty nasty upbringing around the idea of Christianity. And so we were talking and walking, and ended up talking a lot about, as I said, death and grief and trauma. We were sharing some of the pains and struggles we've been through, and what from our childhood and onward, what our experiences have been with death. And it was so interesting to hear that 99.9% of the time, these experiences we were talking about, experiences that we still felt heavy thinking about, a lot of them, was because of just all of the most ridiculous ways that people deal with grief. And it seems like trauma in a lot of circumstances isn't necessarily just something happening to you, because plenty of terrible things happen to people, and it's not necessarily just the bad thing that happened that can be traumatizing. I think a lot of times what turns pain and grief into trauma is when pain doesn't have space to be felt and processed. We talked about how for both of us as children and as teenagers, we were children when the Columbine shooting happened. We were in middle school when 9/11 happened. We talked about how both of us have had friends and students die suddenly, have suicides, both in high school and and college. And Jordan remembers just how challenging it was for when she went to the funeral of her friend who'd committed suicide who died by suicide in high school, and how the priest at the church told everybody in the funeral that Nathan was going to hell for what he'd done. And we talked about how I went to college that was pretty conservative, and there were multiple gay men who died by suicide. And the service I went to, there was no one telling people they were going to hell, but it was just suddenly covered over, that people didn't talk about why he died. And then a lot of people didn't even want to grieve, how somehow even the grief and mourning would be somehow problematic to God. And instead, people want in the Christian community to justify death by saying, like, well, God needed another angel, or God doesn't want us to hurt, like God will take away our pain. I remember actually the 20-year-old boy who died by suicide when I was in college, how his mother spoke at a memorial service, and she said that God took away her grief and gave her joy instead. And I'm not trying to say that her process wasn't real or good for her or anything. I have no idea what it's like to go through that circumstance, but I thought from a bigger perspective, it's hard for me to imagine that would be good advice to give to anybody as a pastor. I would never give someone the advice that God really should take away your grief and your pain, that you just shouldn't feel it. Sometimes I think our feelings feel so uncomfortable and painful that we think we're not supposed to feel them. But actually, there's just really only one way through, and that's by feeling it. Jordan and I talked about how other times when people died or had pain, there was a lot that was covered over, how there were private funerals and people who want to hide away what happened and not let anyone else in. Grief that was handled with denial, anger, control, excuses, avoidance. And the one thing that nobody wanted to say to us and to others when pain hit and when there was trauma was, the one thing that actually could have opened some doors to healing is just to say, I'm so sorry this happened and this hurts. While we were walking, what actually led into some of our grief conversations was that Jordan and I were talking about our favorite CCM music. And maybe Victoria would know a little bit about this, but it's Christian contemporary music, became very popular in the 90s and 2000s. And because Jordan and I are the same age, we were sentimentally listening to and thinking about different artists. And we stopped in the woods and actually listened to a song that we both still love decades later by this band called Third Day. And we both would just have it on repeat on our Walkmans. And so many of the songs that we would remember and think about, we'd listen to the words now and just be like, ugh, yuck, like that theology was terrible, like the weird, a lot of God and masculine energy. I mean, a lot of weird things in Christian messaging we didn't like, but we were listening to the song and realizing just that this one is a treasure, that this one is so good. The words are, when the rain comes, it seems that everyone has gone away. When the night falls, you wonder if you shouldn't find some place to run and hide and escape the pain. But hiding is such a lonely thing to do. I can't stop the rain from falling down on you again. I can't stop the rain, but I will hold you till it goes away. And we were so excited because we were like, finally, some sort of Christian message that we could still stand by today. A message that's not saying, God will fix it. God will make you feel better. God needed another angel. God is trying to punish someone for their pain. God did this or sent that person to hell because it was all a mistake. Instead, it's just saying that God doesn't necessarily always protect us from pain, that we don't deserve pain. We shouldn't be punished for it, but we can stick together through pain and see it and not hide from it, because our pain and grief will teach us something, and we get to be together while we learn and grow, and healing can and still will always happen. That's something that I believe is true for better or for worse, is that time doesn't necessarily heal all of our wounds, but we know that for better or for worse, healing is still possible even years later when there is still pain. And we shouldn't always be surprised when there's still pain, especially if grief and pain and struggle went unprocessed at the time. That stuff can still stay in you, stay in your body. And there is still time. It's never too late to go back, to feel, to embrace your inner child, your inner teenager, your inner self from 5 minutes ago that didn't have a chance and space to feel and grieve and struggle, and to come alongside them and put your present self with your arm around them, or to picture God or spirit or others alongside you and say, it's time to feel the rain and I will be here while you feel it. I thought about this at the end of our walk with the sacred spring, because it's always been a sacred space. It's always had something beautiful about it. The spring has continued to bubble up and provide water for 10,000 years. But it did get cut up by researching miners and by highways and by armies. And yet now it's a beautiful place to be again. There's always time and space for things to heal. The prairie land is back. The birds are back. The energy is there. It was a good symbol for me that nothing is beyond repair. And that even though time itself doesn't naturally heal things, like for instance, there was those ruins from these buildings that had just been abandoned, and without intention, those buildings would just be there and nobody would have access, and it would just be gross and slowly crumbling and a place for graffiti and problems. But with intention, healing can always happen. And with intention and practice, there's something super beautiful that can come out of it. I this morning was checking my email because I know some of you all send nice, we're a community of procrastinators, Walker Church. So sometimes people will send me things, wink, wink, David West, that are like 5 minutes before a service and say, hey, can you still include this? And so I got a really nice email from our own Howard Kranz, and he was saying to look up what Susan had written, something about Talia, her daughter. And she had a little note that on Facebook that said that Susan was hanging out with Talia, and she was going to write a note to her cousin for this wedding announcement party. And she wrote that they talked about how Teddy and Leah's love is large and expanding and filling the world with more love than there was before. And Talia was remembering a concept from a science lesson about chlorophyll and photosynthesis. And she said that that process is more than the sum of its parts. And so they talked about the scientific theory around it, that the universe is expanding. And so she wrote the note that said, I love Teddy and Leah, and they love each other. And all of this is more than the sum of its parts. And this is possibly why the universe is expanding. And I just, I think about this, and to me, it feels like a fitting symbol and moment in thinking about healing and trauma and dealing with grief, is that the things we do to try to practice, to light a candle, to go for a walk, to take down buildings and restore prairie land, a lot of the things that we do to try to process pain and grief seem really small. But the fact is that everything we do to try to come together and bring healing is more than the sum of its parts. It is something that happens that is really beautiful, and it's worth courageously stepping into. So in honor of that little story, Howard had a song that he made about it. And I'm gonna see if I can pull it up because my internet freaked out a little while ago. But okay, I think I can pull it up. So Howard made a song that was more than the sum of its parts. So I will share this with you, and then when we have any other reflections, we can chat about that.
I love Teddy and Leah, and they love each other. And all of this is more than the sum of its parts. This is possibly why the universe...
Oops. Sorry, my internet's being weird. 1 second. 1 second, I will try again. See if I can get this loaded. Come here, internet. Maybe while I'm trying to load this, if you have any other reflections on this, on healing and grief, you're welcome to pipe up.
Yeah, I wanted to rebut that evil priest at your friend's funeral. The people I've known who have committed suicide, my nephew Conrad V, our pastor Seth Garwood, our friend Liz Lowell, every one of them, and I know this, was that was their way out of hell.
Amen. Yeah. That's actually, Conrad, what my friend Jordan was saying too, and I appreciate you saying that, is that she said that a lot of times, especially when there's teen suicide and parents and leaders are just so terrified, right? They don't want this to become contagious in some way, and everyone is just so scared of the situation and so sad that a lot of times people don't want to acknowledge that maybe they had a reason for it. And that doesn't mean that the reason wasn't preventable. That's not to say that people, it's not a, really horrifying reason or whatever, but yeah, like Joe said, there may be a sane response to an insane world. And just, even though it's so painful and so scary to think like that, that is definitely a way through the trauma of it that's probably more clear and honest and true than it is to say like, oh, just don't do this. It's scary and bad, and don't, yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Some people say suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But in my experience and in the experience of the people I mentioned, I think the problem was anything but temporary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so hard.
I wanted to add something. I'm actually taking a class on ancestors and how to work with my ancestors.
Ooh.
And the shaman who is teaching the class said that the Christian way of grief actually causes a lot of damage to our ancestral lines. That we're not able, this Western idea of Christianity, we're not able to grieve in an appropriate way. And I definitely think that's true in my experience when people have shut me down in the past for wanting to grieve or wanting to cry. You get the common expressions like, oh, they're in a better place now. They're, they're at peace now. And it's kind of looked down upon to be sensitive in our world. So, and this guy was saying, like, we should look at what traditional groups have done where they honor somebody for so many ever days, and they have big processions and they have big ceremonies honoring that life. And we don't really do that. I mean, like Christian funerals are so quiet and so
yeah.
Or at least like, my experience, like Catholic funerals are so like, you kind of look weird upon if you cry, things like that.
Right. Yeah, that's so true, Natalie. Thank you for sharing that.
At the same time that they held the last Tannenbaum, my friends gathered in Wisconsin. I don't know if any of you have been to a living wake. But a friend of ours was dying and was in hospice stage, and we gathered. We traveled over very icy roads and a very bad weekend to be with him, and it was wonderful. And so we celebrated him with him, and then. And he finally passed a few months later. But now today, she hadn't, the daughter had not had because we had that and she needed time to process. We're finally having a memorial where we're gathering again today on the eve of on the first anniversary of his death to remember him again.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Benita. That's beautiful. And Lou just shared, you must have missed David West's dad funeral, Natalie, which is true. I'll tell you what, Walker knows how to have a funeral party in a way I've never seen anyone else do. So that's pretty impressive. It's pretty fantastic.
I'd like to read
go
ahead. Whoever it was.
Go ahead, Diane. You go first.
Okay, thanks. I have a brief poem that was written by a friend of mine, Willow Kelly. And it's a letter to grief. It says, "Dear grief, you have been following me around, holding onto my legs and my throat. and I get the distinct impression you aren't going anywhere. You might as well have a seat. These rockers in the dining room are comfortable. Can I get you a cup of coffee? Maybe a scone? They're delicious. Or maybe a nice book. I know we've had a rough relationship. Every time you come around, I land somewhere between sullen and incapacitated. I'm going to try to do better. It seems your reservation here has been extended permanently. So I suppose this is as good a time as any to work out our differences. You must be tired. I bet your feet hurt. You've been really busy. Please take a break and just rock here with your coffee for a while. I will sit with you. I'm getting better at that.
That's beautiful, Diane. Could you post that or make it available somewhere?
Yes, please.
Sure.
I think the more one learns about cold water spring, the more one is able to feel the great grief that is still, I think, reverberating there.
Thank you for sharing that, Jennifer. I think that's a good point. It's like, yeah, I think that's a very good point. Sorry, I had to just let my cat in, but I think my video is loaded for Howard's video. So let me share that with us. Oh, here's my kitty. Casper, say hi. All right.
I love Teddy and Leah, and they love each other. And all of this is more than the sum of its parts. This is possibly why the universe is expanding. And all of this is more than the sum of its parts. More than the sum of its parts. More than the sum of its parts. All of this is more than the sum of its parts. Photosynthesis happens. The universe is expanding. And all of this is more than the sum of its parts. And it lifts all our hearts. Teddy and Leah's love is large and expanding, and filling the world with more love than there was before. The sun and the chlorophyll meet, and photosynthesis happens. The universe expands, and all of this is more than the sum of its parts. More than the sum of its parts. More than the sum of its parts. All of this is more than the sum of its parts. Photosynthesis happens. The universe is expanding. And all of this is more than the sum of its parts. And it lifts all our hearts.
Gorgeous work, Howard. That was lovely. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Victoria says that she's got to go attend to a family thing, but she's grateful for the welcome. And thank you, Benita, for these stories, for everybody sharing more than a year of living wake potlucks at the house when Jerry was on the way out at Casey's house. Thank you for sharing that. You all are an excellent conversationalist group and have good reflections. And Nancy, you never got to share, I don't think. I think you all had something. Or did you share something?
I just wanted to say that a person that I saw her at a lecture. She's like a psychic, and she has connections with people on the other side. And her belief and experience with those people, some who have had sudden deaths or have had death by suicide, she has reported that they can be complicating factors in moving forward, but they don't exempt anybody from going forward, and, looking at certain things and then adjusting and going forward, as all of us will going forward. So I just think in relation to, this belief in like the black and white, heaven and hell, this and that, like it refutes it in her experience. So.
Thanks for sharing that, Nancy. I want to ask, you got your teens behind you. Hey, teens. Have you all had some death at school, didn't you, like last year? Or like a friend of yours or someone in your class or at your school? Oh, you're muted.
There's been some, yeah, there's been some.
What was a helpful thing for your own grief process, girls? As teens?
I guess, well, it wasn't, I think you are like, it might be, yeah, I didn't really like know them personally.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. I think just like thinking about it, and like we knew people who were really close to that person. And so like we talked to them about it.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Yeah, just like talking to the family of, well, the family's friend that really knew the person that died, but yeah, what do you think?
It's kind of like a ripple effect, right? So like you were taking care of your ring of the ripple, like you weren't at the main center because they weren't like your best friends, but there was people that were in the other sides of the ripple, and you were able to take care of that middle section, care for the people that you were able to care for. That's really good. I'm really glad that you had that. Well, friends, does anyone have any birthdays or final thoughts here that we need to chat about and celebrate?
I gave a little personal invite to my son, Nate, as a lot of you know. He Zoomed in. So his birthday's tomorrow.
Nate, happy birthday.
Yeah. And I remember 20 years ago, he'll be 20 tomorrow. That was around that time that people were, spending time at the Coldwater Spring area or the Oaks area. And I remember that time, like, and I was, I don't know, like pregnant with Nate or something like that. So, yeah, it's a good memory.
So it was my birthday on Monday.
Linda, happy birthday.
Thank you.
So good. So we got a Linda and a Nate. Any other birthdays?
Wally had a birthday on Tuesday.
Wally and Linda and Nate. Ooh, happy birthday, Wally.
Happy birthday.
And my birthday is on Wednesday.
Yay!
All these Libras.
Mary, Maria.
Scorpio.
I'm Scorpio. Hey.
Oh, yes, you are.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Do anniversaries count for anything?
Well, you don't get put in the birthday song, but anniversaries are great.
No.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, 29 years. 29 years.
Yay! Congratulations. Is that Dave?
Yeah.
I
was videoing the lake a little earlier. I have it's very placid out here. The lake is very calming. The birds come around, the bird feeder and the squirrels, and it's very serene. I spend a lot of time just resting, not doing it's too cold to go out and try and attack anything.
Well, good. I'm glad that you're getting that time. More importantly than any of these anniversaries, just kidding, but I had anniversary, the 5th anniversary of my Gotcha Casper Day. So Casper, we got her 5 years ago. So that's very exciting. And she's so thrilled about it. Anyways, so Nate, Linda, Wally, Mary, who else?
Maria,
sorry, Maria, not Mary. Who else? Was that it? Who's gonna lead us in happy birthday?
Happy birthday
to you. Happy
birthday to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday
to
you.
And many more.
Good. You can
Happy
even see
birthday.
Nate on there. That's so exciting.
There
So
is the
fun.
Flintstones anniversary song, though.
Oh,
Does anybody know that? Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
William
happy,
Tell
happy,
overture, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And the Flintstones.
well, have a wonderful week of birthdays
Mm.
and celebrations and anniversaries of all kinds, and go in peace and power, and know that you are loved, and may we all be even just a little bit more healed than this next week. And let's get ready for Samhain and Day of the Dead. It'll be a good week. So
See you
take care and
Tuesday.
stay warm.
Bye.
Hey, Diane, are you still on?
I am.
Is there room for a song for Samhain? Or is
Okay.
the program full?
Oh, for Samhain or for Day of the Dead?
Samhain.
Sure, we could throw a song in there. We generally don't do a ton of music for Samhain, but
I don't know. I've got a really nice song that was written by Andy Stewart.
okay,
It's called the Fisherman's Song,
okay,
and it's about life in Celtic, in the Celtic region at a particular time. It's really pretty.
right. So are you wanting to record that and send it to me,
Or I can do it live.
you could do it live?
What time is Samhain?
7 o'clock,
And that's 7 o'clock on
Saturday,
Saturday.
the 31st, Halloween day.
Oh, let me get back to you on it then. I'll get back to you within like 2 days.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't know right now, but I'm gonna see what I can put together.
Did Katie hang up?
I think
Diane,
so.
have
I think
there
she might
been any changes to coffee on Monday?
Pardon me?
Have there been any changes to coffee on Monday? What's the new schedule?
Right, we met last Monday at the church in the sanctuary at 10 o'clock.
Is that going to be pretty much what time?
At 10 o'clock?
10 is generally the start? Okay.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. And we'll probably do the same. I don't see it getting above 45
No,
anytime
no,
soon.
that might be a deal.
Okay.
So,
So some people don't feel it's safe indoors, so we've lost a couple of people from the coffee clutch.
Sure.
You know, do the best.
It is what it is. I'll
right.
keep one another in our prayers.
Right. Okay, Benita, I think we lost Katie. We were
Yeah.
supposed to have our run through. So I'll send her an email I'll send her an email to schedule a time this week before Saturday.
let me give you a rundown of what I know my schedule is like then. Okay,
I have something
today,
to write with. Hold on. Let me get a pen. Okie dokie.
okay. Today I have the memorial at 1, but I'm free probably after about 3 or 4. And this will probably be the best day. I'm also going to work on the videos. I'm going to get set up this afternoon after the memorial and get the videos to you by tonight. And I might call you when I get done with that.
Okay.
And Monday and Tuesday, probably anytime after 6 is good.
Monday, Tuesday
and-
after 6,
And
okay.
then Thursday or Friday, I think those are the 2 days that those are the 2 days I could do in the morning before noon.
I thought you said after 6.
After 6 on Monday and Tuesday,
Uh-huh.
before noon on Thursday or Friday.
Thursday or Friday. Okay, that's the part I didn't get.
Before noon, yeah.
Or noon, okay.
And then of
Okay.
course, Saturday, Halloween, I can do anytime and for whatever you need that day too.
Right, I prefer not to do that on, I
Yeah.
want that one done before we get to
No,
Saturday.
but I understand. So whatever you need on that day too, I can do.
Right. Yeah, I'll probably have you help me do the circle. It's gonna
And
be
I've got-
interesting.
And I don't know if Mary's gonna drum for you. If not, I might be able to keep a beat. So I'm not a drummer, but
Yeah. Yeah, I may have you do that. It's really simple. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
yeah, and I can practice the beat with you during the run through and see and get that down and then have that available.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay, so it was, what's his name? Alan, who wants to sing a song.
Oh, by the way, we're still recording.
Well, that's okay. It's just you and me.
Okay.
Okay. Okie dokie. I think that's it. I'll let you know when she's available.
Sounds good.
I want
All
to,
right.
really want to do a run through for Sunday and also find out how she's setting me up on Saturday to be able to host.
Yeah.
I'll do that, but
There's a song that I'm trying to learn on my ukulele too, that I'll either send out on Facebook or if it's appropriate and you want something else for either service, let me know. There's that song by Lorena McKenna called All Souls Night. Have you heard it?
no.
It was the first time I heard it, it was so beautiful. I'm really glad I was pulling up to the curb at the time because I would have literally stopped the car.
That's great. I try to keep Samhain down to 2 hours and we always go over anyway. You know, it's kind of like, I'll give it some thought. And as far as the Sundays go, we're kind of booked out.
I
We
figured.
really are, yeah. No last minute stuff.
Probably just post it on Facebook then.
Right.
I'll do deference to Lorena McKenna, who I know sings it better, but
Okie dokie, Smokey, I'll let you know when we're going to get together.
all right. Much love.
Yeah, you too.
Talk to you later.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And